Have you ever seen a group with a really noble goal just completely shoot itself in the foot? Well, that's what we're talking about today. We're going to deconstruct how a movement's own words meant to rally people, can actually become the very reason they fail. We're diving deep into one real-world social media post to see exactly how language can backfire.
It all starts with this one line, a line that sounds almost casual. We will take care of the annoyances. Now, on the surface, maybe that sounds like they're just handling some problems. But what if it's not? This quote right here, this is our doorway into a much, much darker message.
So where does that line come from? Well, it's from this social media post, and this is going to be the centerpiece of our whole breakdown today. You can see it's a mix of things. There's praise, calls for focus, but also some seriously aggressive language. So, what is it? A passionate call to action or a thinly veiled thread? Let's figure it out.
Okay, before we can really unpack the words, we have to understand the world they were posted in, because the setting for this message is just as important as the message itself. And in this case, the stakes really couldn't be any higher.
And the biggest clue to the context is right here in the text. It mentions Duterte Street, Den Haag. Den Haag, of course, is The Hague, the city that hosts the International Criminal Court. So this isn't just some random group on the internet. It's a movement that is directly tied to the ICC's legal proceedings involving the former president of the Philippines, Rodrigo Duterte. This message is being broadcast from the literal center of international justice.
All right, now let's get into the language itself, because this post does an incredible job of creating a really powerful, really aggressive in-group and a totally demonized out-group. It is a classic us versus them playbook, and it's all done with code words. Now, to really get what's happening here, we need to wrap our heads around a key concept: dehumanization. It's when you strip people of their human qualities by labeling them as something else, something less. It's a psychological move that makes it so much easier to justify aggression. And this post, it's a textbook example.
So who are they? Well, the post doesn't just call them critics or opponents. No, it slaps them with these derogatory labels. They're called eksenang mga palaka, which translates to attention-seeking frogs. They're written off as just annoyances, and they're branded as espía, or spies. See what's happening? They're not people with a different opinion anymore. They're pests and enemies to be dealt with. And this is not just talk. The post literally tells people to whisper to us the names of these so-called spies. Think about that. That creates a culture of paranoia and internal surveillance. It's turning supporters into informants, and basically sets the stage for real-world harassment, doxing, or even worse.
But of all the words in this post, there's one single phrase that takes this from just aggressive talk to something way more dangerous. It's a phrase that has a chilling double meaning.
And here it is. The phrase reads, "Ligpitin ang dapat ligpitin agad." Now, in Tagalog, this is a really strong command. To someone who doesn't know the context, it might seem totally harmless. But trust me, it's anything but. And this is where it gets really dark. That one word, ligpitin, has two totally different meanings. On one hand, the benign meaning is just to tidy up, to put things away, or to settle an issue. But on the other hand, you have its colloquial meaning, especially in the political landscape of the Philippines. There, it's a very well-known euphemism for liquidating, eliminating, or silencing someone. This is why that context we talked about is so critical. Remember, this message is all about an ICC trial investigating crimes against humanity, specifically linked to the war on drugs and its death squad rhetoric. So when you use a term commonly associated with extrajudicial killings in that specific context, it's no longer just a word. It becomes a veiled threat of physical harm.
So that brings us to the most important point. How does all this aggressive stuff actually end up harming the movement? If the whole point is to show support, how does it turn into an act of self-sabotage?
There's a perfect word for what's happening here: subversion. It's the act of undermining something from the inside out. And that is exactly what this message is doing. It claims it's building support, but the methods it uses are actively destroying its own credibility. So let's give them the benefit of the doubt for a second. Let's assume this movement has a noble goal. What could that be? Well, maybe it's offering a legitimate legal defense for the former president. Or maybe it's just about mobilizing peaceful political support. Both of those are perfectly reasonable goals. But here's the thing. This message doesn't help with either of those goals. Instead, it sabotages them in three huge ways. First, it creates legal prejudice. Second, it causes massive reputational damage. And third, it puts everyone involved at serious risk. Just think about this from a legal point of view.
A prosecutor at the ICC could hold up this post in court as actual evidence. It looks like an attempt to intimidate witnesses or obstruct justice. So instead of helping a legal defense, the language actually aligns the movement with the exact same kind of violent intimidation that's being investigated. It's basically a gift to the prosecution.
And look, this isn't just a theory. This kind of online post has tangible, real-world fallout that can ripple from a social media page all the way into a courtroom.
This table breaks down the internal risks perfectly. You've got a target, the spies, which just ends up suppressing any kind of internal dissent. You have a method, likpitin, which could easily escalate to actual harassment or threats. The language is so aggressive it completely undermines any claim to professionalism. And the leadership style run by the captain is based on intimidation, not ideas.
And that's not even getting into the social media platform itself. I mean, this post is basically a cocktail of policy violations. Encouraging people to report spies, that's coordinated harassment. Using coded words like ligpitin, that's a veiled threat. The whole tone is intimidation. This is the kind of thing that gets a group shut down, fast. The risks go way beyond just social media, too. In the Netherlands, where this group is based, signaling that you're going to take matters into your own hands, we will take care of the annoyances, can violate public order laws and get the police involved. And back at the ICC, like we said, it could lead to charges of witness tampering. The legal danger here is very, very real. So, after all of that, what's the actual professional or diplomatic value of this whole approach? The analysis gives a really stark, clear answer: zero. A big fat zero. Nothing. So, to sum it all up, whatever noble intent this group claims to have, its tactics tell a completely different story. They're the exact opposite of what a movement that's actually seeking justice should be doing. It replaces transparency with aggression, dialogue with threats, and due process with vigilantism. It's a masterclass in self-sabotage. And this leaves us with a really critical question to think about, not just for this movement, but for any cause that we might believe in. Passion is essential, right? But at what point does that passion curdle into something that actually destroys the very thing you're fighting for? When does your support become your own sabotage?